how's it going? Today we're going to upgrade the stereo. Here's the stock sub. It is kind of a piece of junk and I've blown it. I'm going to do a Pioneer 8-inch sub, which will fit into the stock box with a couple modifications we're going to have to make there. Went ahead and got this Kenwood 5-channel power amp. In addition to doing the amp and the sub, I've decided to go ahead and get a double din. Some installation tools, some 9-wire, some RCA cables, some connectors, and a amp installation kit. Step number 1 is to disconnect the negative battery cable. You see the panel? There's one corner, there's a second corner, and then moving over, I got the light in one hand and the camera in the other. There's the third corner and there's the fourth corner. This thing comes off amazingly easy. And start down in this corner right here. I might need 2 hands for this. How about up here? Oh, there it is. There's 1 and there's 2. I'm just gonna come around. There's 3. Switch hands, and there's 4. Oh, I forgot to tell you one important thing. Make sure that your parking brake is on. All right, put it all the way down into the lowest position, which is 1, and tilt your steering wheel all the way down as well. All right, and then now, if I can do this with one hand, this thing just comes right out. And that's all there is to that. Now, every system's going to be different, but I'm just going to pull these 2 tabs down so I can get my stereo out. Okay, this black Phillips head is coming from here, and the other one is missing. So I'm going to add that to the bag. Took the AC stuff out to give me lots and lots of room to find places to run the cables, and took the cassette player out. I'm going to replace that with one of those aftermarket drawer things. So I've decided to go ahead and get a double din. And this is a 2002 Tahoe, so doing a double din and a din and a half is going to be tricky. Okay, I've cut back all the wires there. I've taken the wire harness out. There's the other side of the wire harness. I'm going to shove that back in there. The air conditioner controls, I shoved over here. Try to get them out of the way. And basically try to get as much out of the way as possible so that I can try to push the double din in and see if it fits. And it's not even close. Not even close. I'm gonna have to get rid of a bunch of stuff back there. And if I pull the radio out, looks like the guy who installed this radio already knocked some of it out, but it looks like I gotta knock some more of it out. But then there's that metal rail behind it, and there's a rivet there and a rivet there, in addition to the 4, I guess 7mm bolts right there. So I'm gonna try to well, I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna think about it. It's a pretty bloody job, but I've drilled a rivet out the bottom, and now I'm trying to get the one out the top so I get this whole cage out of here. All right, a little bit of persistence and a little bit of blood. You should be able to get this cage out. I gotta resubmit these wires. And it is out. Now I can safely cut away the pieces that I need to cut away. Okay, I gotta admit it's been a day or so since my last video, and had a heck of a time trying to figure out how to get that double din radio to fit in that radio cage, and I just couldn't figure it out on my own. So went down to my local audio store, and they said they had a perfect solution. And at first I was skeptical, but now I'm not. It is a Metra DP3002B. And what this is, as you can see, the spot here is way wider than it is on the stock on my 2002. But more important, well, just as important is this. These clips are going to allow me to use my stock cage, as opposed to having to go and find a 2003 to 2006 cage out of a junkyard, or at least I think that's what it said. So I'm going to go ahead and install these on the side of the radio and see how everything looks. But it's got kind of a matte gray finish. It's a little bit more flimsy than stock, but if you were to attempt to modify your own stock, you're going to have to do all the modification here. So just a bunch of modification that I just didn't feel like dealing with. Well, seeing as how I already had an aftermarket stereo in my car, I was able to cheat and see how this thing was set up. And what I did was I just copied it on the new one. So there it is right there, and that's what it looks like on the other side. All right, see if we can do this here. Just gonna put it in just like the old one. Take a look at this. Check out the fit. This is really without even trying. Look at that fit. That looks really nice. Alright, it fits nice, but I know I've got to take this dash bezel back off. Give myself some room for the wires and the harnesses back there. So that's what's next on my list to try to figure out. Okay, so what my goal was to cut out a large portion over here from the back so that I could get those RCA cables out, and I cut more here so that I could get any other wires on this side that I need to get out. And then this triangle down here was tiny, so just in case I need to run any cables underneath, I got that there, and then that one was there by stock. So okay, it's wiring time. Alright, so if you're apprehensive about doing a stereo install by yourself because of all these wires, don't be. This is not that hard. There is a finite number of wires. First of all, let's take one at a time. This is the one that comes with your stereo. Okay, but your stereo doesn't know whether your car is a Ford or Chevy or a Dodge or Toyota or whatever, right? So you're going to have to get an aftermarket wiring harness for your particular vehicle. I already had an aftermarket stereo in here, and I'm replacing it with a nicer one. That's why that one's all messed up. But anyhow, essentially, these wires are going to plug into these wires, and you just match the colors. It's not that hard. Let's just look at one side, okay? You've got a yellow wire, which is a constant power wire. You're just going to match that to the yellow wire over there. Red wire is switched power. You're going to match it to the red wire over there. The black wire is ground. And then all these other scary wires are very, very easy. you're going to have a white one, and you're going to have a white one with a black stripe on it. Gray one, gray stripe. Purple one, purple stripe. Green one, green stripe. Now, this is General Motors. I don't know what your colors are going to be, but I mean, essentially, these 8 wires are very simple. These are the positive and the negative for each of your speakers. So each of your speaker is going to get a positive. Each of your speakers is going to get a negative. All right. So white is front, gray is front, purple and green are rear speakers. Okay, and it's as simple as that. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your wires and you're going to connect them with your aftermarket wire harness, and then that is going to go into the wire harness of your vehicle. And it's pretty much that easy. Okay, that is if you're just doing a stock head unit. Now, so if the only thing that I purchased was an aftermarket stereo to replace my stock stereo, and I was leaving all my other speakers intact, and I wasn't adding an amp or a sub or anything like that, that's pretty much it. Just match up the wires. Don't be scared of this. You can do it. It's not hard. Now, let's take it up a notch. All right. These RCA cables are here because I'm going to add an amp to the system. Okay? So essentially what these do is they send the signal from the head unit to the amplifier to tell it what to do. Now, as you can see here, I've got 6 of them because I've got 4 speakers, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and then the subwoofer is right here. That's why I've got 6. And these get run from the back of the head unit to the amplifier. Okay, so this is the speed wire. All it is 9 wires. It's the 8 speaker wires and then a switch source so that the amp is only on when the radio is on. And essentially this is going to go on the other side. This is going to go into the amp. And the way I'm going to get my amp to talk to my speakers is I'm going to wire the other side of this into the amp, and then this side is going to go into my wire harness so that my amp can now drive my speakers. Okay, so I'm going to be doing green to green, gray to gray, etc., 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 from my 9 wire to this, instead of just like a bone stock head replacement where I'd be going from the radio into this. So this is the harness that shipped with the radio. Okay, that's supposed to plug into the car harness. And what I'm going to do is I am not going to be using these 8 wires at all, because instead I'm going to be using these 8 wires. Here I have the harness for my specific make and model of car. Okay, so I'm going to have a mixture of wires coming from the radio itself. Basically, I'm going with ground, switched power, and power, and that's really all I'm going to plug in here. And then the rest of my inputs are going to be coming from the speed wire, or 9 wire. All right, so this is the radio harness. It's going to go back into the back of the radio. All right, I'm only interested in a few of these wires. Number 1, constant power. Switched power. Ground. Ground. All right, so I'm only interested in these 3 guys right here. All right, and guess where they're going to go? Into their counterparts on the specific car harness. All right, so let's do this. All right, so we're going to make those guys up with black, yellow, and red. This is actually pink, but go with red. Alrighty. All right, I'm calling one audible. I'm also going to use this dimmer switch. I got an orange with a white stripe, which I've also got on the car harness. So I'm going to go ahead and use that stripe too. So also, I guess if you have an antenna, an electric antenna that needs to go up, mine is a solid antenna. But I guess if you have an electric antenna that goes up and down, you would do the blue wire with the white into its appropriate connection as well. Let's wire stuff up. Yellow to yellow. Our first connection. Wow. How cool is that? Oh, I'm also going to take this illumination. Orange and white to orange and white. Black to black. All right, black to black. Okay, red to red. All right, this is switched power. So I'm gonna throw a little audible in here. Because this is switched power, and I need switch power to the amp too, I'm gonna go ahead and start marrying this one up too. All right, so switch power times 3. This is switch power to the radio and switch power to the amp. And smush. Solid orange is capped off. Don't need to worry about him. Okay, so when I originally plugged it in, I had no power to the front speakers, so I had to go ahead and attach this blue and white wire. Ignore the blue wire, but the blue and white wire would go to the pink wire. I think what the pink wire does is goes to the original wire harness for the original stock radio, and I'm wondering if that carries a signal to the stock amplifier, and if I needed that power to run the front speakers. All right, now speaker wires. Normally, if I only purchased a radio and I was going straight from my radio into my stock speaker system, I would just use this harness and go into it. Now, the only reason why my situation's more complicated is because I do have an amp and I want the signal to come from the amp. So instead of using the radio, I'm going to use this. Alrighty. Solid white. White with a black stripe. Do the fronts first. Solid gray. Gray with a stripe. And guess where they go? Alright, let's do these guys first. I like to do the ones with the stripes first because you can definitely see the stripes. You probably won't mess those up. So, white with a black stripe, with white with a black stripe, done. Gray with a black stripe, gray with a black stripe. Solid gray with solid gray. Solid white with solid white. Alright, now, under normal circumstances, I would do the greens and the purples. I have extenuating circumstances. In this particular vehicle, there is a remote amplifier. If I were to try to go through the remote amplifier, my rear speakers will not work. So what I did was I wired my rear speakers directly to the amp. That is the only reason why I will not be connecting these 4. Other than that, I would be connecting these 4. So I'm just going to cut them off so I don't have any copper showing. Seriously? Okay. I'm going to cover up those ends. Guess what? We're all hooked up. This is going to go to the radio. This is going to go to the car. To the car. for the radio. Okay, so now, if you were doing a stock installation, you would just plug this guy right here in the back of your radio, and you'd be done. Well, don't forget to run your USB stuff, and that's pretty much all there is to it for a stock installation. If all you wanted to do was a stock installation, you'd be all set. If you installed anything additional, like an amp or anything like that, keep watching. Sirius XM. This is a wire that we ran all the way from the back of the car. Antenna goes right like that. This is going to get plugged in. Make sure you do it right. Watch your pattern. Sirius XM. There's the Sirius. Okay, so here comes our RCAs. One goes there. That one goes there. All right, radio connection itself. Radio connection itself. FM, no static at all. Where are you? Guess what? We've just installed a stereo. Our USB and our satellite just got a little mixed up. Alright, so here's our USB. We can play songs from our iPod and stuff. I got 4 speakers and a sub that's working great. Alright, at this point I've confirmed that everything is working good, and I'm getting ready to put the radio back in. However, I got a lot of these wires here with bare copper, and I don't like that, so I'm going to cap all of them off with a little bit of heat shrink, and I've just used this one as an example. I kind of staggered the 2 purple wires. One's longer than the other. I cut one a little bit longer than the other, and then I hit it with heat shrink. And then, essentially, here's the heat shrink right here. Got a bunch of that. You can get that at Harbor Freight real cheap. And then hit it with a heat gun real fast. And I'm going to go ahead and do that to all of these wires, because I have a ton of them in here. And I don't want to take the chance that as I'm shoving this thing back in, or at a time later, that I might get a short. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I won't bore you with the details. So here they are. So here they are after being shrink wrapped. Okay. Next thing to do is put the radio in the box. And you can't do this with 2 hands unless you're a magician. So get an assistant. Thanks to my super assistant, we're in. And that's it. Done for the night. Alright, so everything is in and it looks nice. Turn this down. I'm overall happy with the way this bezel turned out, and the radio's in there nice. Looks a heck of a lot better than it did with all the factory stuff in there. So this pretty much concludes the radio portion of the video. More videos coming on the installation of the amp, installation of the sub, and some problems that I had along the way. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and until next time.